Dr. Prabhakar, I wanted to, this elevation of OSTP to the cabinet level gives a unique opportunity for a scientist to play a larger role in shaping the public policies of the nation. And I'm a big fan of, we live in a technology-driven economy, and so we need to have people, in my mind, all aspects of our government who, I'm a little down on the CEOs of companies who also aren't science-based. They don't know what the next engineering evolution is going to be. They try to run it on a Wall Street basis, and I guarantee you that's not a recipe for success. There's just so much transformation happening. If you don't have a scientist or an engineer at the top of the ranks, you're not gonna see the next move. So how do you sit at the cabinet level and see the next move and communicate that across government? And let me give you an example. I'm very interested in what we do next on cybersecurity. Yeah. I feel like the amount of attacks are just escalating. It's really a way of intimidation, if nothing else, by foreign governments. And the consequences could be devastating to our economy. And yet, probably every committee in the Congress has had a hearing on cybersecurity. So how do you play a role? What do you think that we should do to get a more whole-of-government response on cybersecurity, and what can the Office of Science and Technology Policy do at the cabinet level to assure that that happens?
Madam Chair, thank you for this question, because I think that's a question that's been very much on my mind as I've thought about what this role will be if I'm confirmed. I had the great honor of being in the Oval Office with the President to talk about this position, and to have him say to me that the reason he had made this position a cabinet level role was because he viewed the role of science and technology in our country and in the future to be so vitally important that he thought it needed to be elevated. And that just moved and delighted me, because I see that in everything that we're doing. In my private sector experience, I very much had the experience that you're describing about managing to Wall Street, which is very different than managing into the future and driving a future that we really want to create. The reason I think that that connection of science and technology at the cabinet level can actually be very effective is because science and technology opens doors, but by itself it can't do anything. And it's implementation, it's acceptance, it's adoption, it's the way science and technology changes the way we operate, the way our incentives are established, the way our organizations work. That's when change really happens. And I think cybersecurity is in many ways a perfect example, because when I think about the challenge of cybersecurity, we have this growing attack surface. For decades now, it has felt as if the problem is getting worse faster than we can keep up with it. And when I think about that, I see two complementary facets of dealing with it. One will always be the research that gives us better methods and more automated, more effective methods to be more secure. But without the other half, which is the implementation, we're simply not going to get there. And how many times have you seen a report of a cybersecurity problem where, when you peel it back, that organization should have patched something, or they should have had a different procedure in place? It's not that they didn't know, it's that they didn't have sufficient incentives, or they weren't worrying about it as much as they should have. And so these implementation issues are where I think that's where the rubber meets the road for science and technology. And my hope is, and what I would work towards if I'm confirmed in this position, is to use that cabinet position to link science and technology to the other aspects of government that so often are where a lot of the important implementation steps happen.
What do you think, that's like a roadmap? Do you think that's a plan? I was a big fan, a very geeky report done by then Secretary Moniz called the Quadrennial Review.
Yes, wonderful report.
And that kind of report says, this is where we are as a nation. These are the things that we should go and implement as it related to energy. And basically it was talking about the transformation that was happening, that we no longer had the same structure even. We didn't even have the same structure to deliver what we previously had. So I think that, in my mind, we have a lot of great efforts going on in cybersecurity, but it's not as cohesive as a strategic plan, or certainly not a constant review. So I think so you're saying you think that OSTP could play that role?
Yes, I think those reports can sometimes be extremely impactful. The one you described is a great example. And then I think you also have to couple it with the direct persuasion and the finding of ways to implement. And that's sometimes, as you know, that's a very human enterprise, and I think that's something that my hope is the cabinet position would give me an opportunity to be more effective than science and technology has been in the past on that side of it.
Thank you.